Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm very well, Matilda. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, yeah, great to see you again.
Thank you for your time. I'd like to ask you, like as a first question, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your career?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've had over 40 years in markets, 25 of those years as a trader at investment banks in London. And since 2010, I've been working as a performance coach and an executive coach in London in the financial markets and commodity market space, working with investment banks, hedge funds, commodity houses, energy firms, prop firms. So right across the spectrum of performance and leadership, and in a way helping them to become more effective, more productive at what they do.
How did you get into this?
I had a coach about halfway through my trading career, and he was a performance coach, and he had a huge impact on where I was. Trading is never a straight line. You learn, you grow, develop, evolve, improve, go through lows, and your confidence might suffer. So I was kind of a bit of a mid-career lull in my progress, and had the good fortune to have a chance to work with a coach, not really knowing exactly what it was going to do for me. And it really woke me up to myself, who I was, how I took risk, how I related to risk, how I worked with markets. And I came out of that with a whole new energy and a much more productive trader for the rest of my career.
So after having like been successfully coached, you decided to be a coach and also to write a book as well.
It retained a fascination with me, what happened. And a decade or so later, I found myself at one of those career turning points, where you can go any number of ways. And my only thing to do at that point was I was planning to go to a hedge fund and, try and develop myself within that world as a trader. But a chance conversation with that former coach at that point, and I was actually seeking his advice about, sort of which hedge fund firm to consider and how I would work there, actually led me in another direction to becoming a coach. And that I fell in love with the idea of that, and working with people, and I thought it might be a little bit more enjoyable and a bit less stressful as well. And that was where I went. And yes, I was approached um, about a decade or so later about writing a book on really the behavioural side of trading and how to be more productive and effective as a trader. That led to Mastering the Mental Game of Trading, which was published in 2024. So
Amazing. Congrats. I mean, we're not going to go into all the details of your book, but is there anything you'd like to share with us?
the game of trading is incredibly complex, and no one really tells you what to do and what it is. We just kind of go into it headlong. We land in a role, maybe we land in a support or analyst role to start with. Maybe we decide we want to go in a certain direction and we choose a particular field that we want to go into. But we don't see the whole game. We just see the little bit of it that we're playing, and it's a lot more complex. There's so many more different facets to it than we realise. And as you get more and more into it, you realise that you know less and less. So it's really important to anyone to sort of really develop their game. And I just started a new newsletter called Mastering the Trading Game, which is a more expansive look at what trading is and what the game of trading is, and how you are within it and how it affects you and how you can bring the best of yourself to it. The book was more about the mental side, but this is a much broader, holistic approach to understanding what actually is happening out there, and what is the game or games that you're playing.
And do you have like any tips to anyone in trading at the moment?
I always say to people, if you're involved in trading, you're engaged in trading, whatever way you do it, learn how to be a risk taker, because the art of trading is the art of risk taking, and it doesn't come natural to most people. It didn't come natural to me. It sounds exciting, but we often can become risk avoiders or risk analyzers, um, risk managers and risk management. All those things are a key part of trading, but they're not actually the risk taking itself. And that's the clue. Trading is about taking risk and learning how to take risk and learning how to manage risk, and all those different components wrapped up into the whole game.
Recently, we were sharing a panel at Commodity Trading Week by Commodities People, and you were also talking about journaling. I know this is one of the things that you say and discuss in your book. Is this something you're able to share with us? That's one of many things that you share in your book.
I take a view of of trading and the game of trading that it's a performance activity. It's not an intellectual activity. It's not a maths equation or a science. It's much more of an art. So therefore, it's really important to reflect on what you do, to explore what you do, to really keep a track of it rather than just go through it, to monitor it like a sports professional would. A lot of sports professionals, they journal. A lot of musicians journal. They make notes. They track their performance and their performance activities, and that's what great performers do. And they work with coaches, hence a lot of people work with me for that reason. Journaling, it's a fantastic way to be reflective, to step back, and to have a kind of record of what you're doing, to look back on it, and see where you can improve, where you might spot patterns. It's a fantastic accomplishment, rather, to yourself as you go through what's actually a very lonely job quite often.
So I'm not a trader, but and I've always thought that I have to get into journaling. Unfortunately, every time I just forget about it. So I'm sure that there are like some apps or ChatGPT or just a piece of paper to do it on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of journaling naturally, so I keep sort of various journals, and
Oh wow.
back in there, I've got a series of A4 folders which are from my training days, and I'm not a natural journaler. It takes time, it takes effort. At times it can feel a bit mind-numbing and boring, but it's doing it for 5 minutes a day. That's all you have to do. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. You don't need a lot of detail. In fact, too much detail is counterproductive. You want a kind of short record, short notes that doesn't ruin your day, becomes something you can look back at. And you don't have to do it every day, but if you can try and do it regularly, periodically, once a week, a couple of times a month at worst, then it builds up, and you have to do it in a way which can enable you to become engaged with it. Some people I know do it daily, and some people keep an electronic journal. Some people, they buy certain apps and tools for journaling that I know, and there are one or two trading ones out there. Some people I know keep it as a project in one of their AI engines, and I had a client last week who came up to me and said, Claude had said, ask Stephen, because he'd kind of got into a bit of a mess with his trading and used Claude as a journal, and he downloaded all our conversations that we had, the notes from it that he made into Claude over a couple of years. And, it got to the point where he said, maybe you should talk to Stephen. And we had a great conversation. So, there's lots of different ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Well, this is a teaser for your book, but thank you very much. One thing that we are discussing earlier, it's like the impact of AI in commodity trading and in traders. I see a lot of changes myself at trading companies. Can you share like your point of view of what you see with regards to the AI into our industry?
It's revolutionizing it for existing traders, because a lot of traders that I work with, they're not coders, okay, and they can't do coding, but they have models inside their head that they would love to build, and systems that they'd like to develop. They don't have the skills, and they hire coders and quants to do it for them, but it becomes quite frustrating. They've got to translate it to these needs to the coders and the quants and the analysts who, they don't understand what's going on inside their head, and they have to decipher it, and it causes a lot of friction, and can become quite difficult for the people to follow. Now, what I'm saying is that a lot of them are now doing it themselves, or they're engaging far more purposefully with the people they have doing it because the AI engines enable them to form a common language. So it's really empowering. Like I say, some people are building their own systems. Some are actually adding more people to their team because they can engage with them more productively.
Yeah.
Sales side firms are starting to become, build models that the traders themselves who understand risk can become much more engaged with it. So it's,
Yeah.
I see so much that's happening, so many ways people are using them. Almost every single trader at the moment that I know is in some way using AI to boost their
Yeah.
productivity, their effectiveness, their risk management. It is incredible what's
Yeah.
happening out there.
And in terms of like the psychology of traders, do you already see an impact, or that's going to take a little bit of time to have a direct impact on the?
That's something that's human. Like I say, some people are using it as a kind of a journaling tool or even a coaching tool, but it can't speak to them still on the human level.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the people I know that have used it as coaching tools, they like that example. Go and speak to Steve. It brings a knowledge base, but it doesn't necessarily recognize the human challenge that the person is seeking, and it helps to still speak to someone. So I think I'm not altogether sure that AI is necessarily, um, gonna sort of help people from that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that they can understand the game more, and
Yeah.
I think from a psychological perspective, it's really about developing your performance and understanding what you're doing. That's why I say
Yeah.
this newsletter. If you understand the game more, you understand yourself more. Psychology, behavior, performance. It's all a journey into yourself and
Yeah.
how you're playing the game. So, I think in a way it can encourage people to look into that a little bit more.
I was really impressed because I asked ChatGPT. My ChatGPT is called Harry for some reason, and
Okay.
I asked Harry to give me, my personality traits. I was
Okay.
really actually surprised that, and something that you do have to say in the prompt is be honest. I was really surprised by the answer, actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
And did you ask it what sort of trader you'd be best at?
I didn't
Did you
ask. Yeah, I
Oh, so
didn't
you
ask that.
That's okay. I'd be interested
So,
to actually look at that because
yeah,
I have some quite well formed views on that. And I suppose for an AI engine to really answer that question, they'd have to draw on some sort of research from that.
yeah, that
So
would be really good.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what it comes up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two last questions. One is like the current market on the traders. I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of volatility, etc. What kind of impact do you see at the moment on the traders' work and health, should I say?
Okay. Okay. Well, March was a very traumatic month. Obviously, we could look at different markets. There's certain different markets that are affecting people in different ways. Obviously, commodities and energy has been a really interesting space. There's been a lot of volatility in there. It's been a very interesting and often a rich time for people in the sell side of that work. And I think people, even on the buy side, have had a pretty good period by and large. Other markets haven't fared so well. They've been kind of lost in the secondary side of that because they end up trying to second guess oil and energy, and that's not really their game. So macro markets have been very difficult. Geopolitical winds have sort of challenged a lot of people in there. Um, Equity markets, you can look at them and say, well, people should have done well in them, and some people would have done. But again, the geopolitical forces has really kind of trapped a lot of people into a certain mindset in that space, which actually, from what I see, has caused a lot of them to miss out the opportunity that's been there.
Yeah.
I think fear has been high. So that's been a challenging time. And then you've had the crypto markets, the currency markets have been under really just stuck in a kind of a range or in a negative position. A lot of liquidity has gone from those markets recently, and they've not been a lot of fun for people to play. So, there's always different markets behaving in different ways at different times. And obviously a lot of energy, a lot of money's gone into the AI markets, and if you're in that space, you've done pretty well again. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so it all depends where you are, really.
Yeah, no, totally. I've got one last question. If you were to give one piece of advice to yourself at the age of 20, what would it be?
Okay, well, I had a really good friend of mine a few years ago. His daughter was just leaving university. She was 21. She wanted to get into the world of trading. And he said, are there any courses I should do? I should put my daughter on. And this might sound like bad advice, but I promise you, I think it's really good advice. I said, open up an online poker account for her and allow her to understand and learn the basics of poker, or any game like that, really, because it's a gaming mindset, it's a probabilistic thinking mindset. A lot of poker players become great traders, a lot of good poker players, because you're thinking about risk, you're thinking about how to make decisions, you're thinking about how to react to setbacks, you're thinking about a game where you might not win often, but when you do, you can win high, and how do you capture those opportunities? That's what poker is. Um, Other things that are very good analogies for that: bridge, blackjack, chess, thinking strategically. Perhaps that's a bit more long-term investment mindseted. But, games of any sort, a lot of people from going to trading and do really well are from performance backgrounds, music and sport, acting, drama. It's the same sort of thing. It's dealing with failure, dealing with setback, carrying on, learning how to build habits and processes to try and achieve success in a world where the odds are stacked against you. So to me, that is more useful going into this world than learning, all about, how to bootstrap a bond, or, you still need to learn that, but that
Yeah.
is just not really the game itself. That's great if you're an analyst or you're learning how to analyze markets, which again is part of trading, but it can go too deep in that direction. In fact, a lot of analysts struggle to make the shift to traders because they're stuck too much in the analyst mindset.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Stephen, for all this advice. And it's been a great pleasure speaking with you today.
Absolute pleasure. Great to speak with you again.
Thanks. Take care. Bye bye.